Thanks for joining me for this quick fit video for our yoga highlight happy hour. Today, we're going to take it down a notch as we did at the end of last month. Bring our attention more to the little fine-tuning things that really lend to yoga, things that get overlooked and are often done out of habit or ritualistically without any consciousness. So to start, let's talk about Lotus Pose. Lotus Pose can be done in half lotus, the full expression of lotus, and then there's also exercises to help to get us more flexible to build our way up. So blocks are always handy dandy blocks, and a blanket can stand in for your blocks as well. Keep in mind that while we picture someone seated in a full lotus pose being the epitome of yoga, we say yogi and people picture the full-blown thing, the whole shebang, right? But lotus is actually a very advanced pose, and we have hundreds and hundreds of yogis each year injuring their knees because they force their limbs into the pose. We're going to break it down. We're going to learn some exercises that help to open up the hips and make this a more attainable pose. Now, even for me, some days I cannot do it. So remember to always be gentle with yourself, always be warm, right? Nice and warm in those hips. My legs are going to open up at a 90, right? I'm at 90 degrees, as if I have the corner of a square set here within my thighs. Bringing attention to the thighs, the knees, we need to externally rotate, heavily externally rotate those thighs in the hip socket. I like to think about the outsides of my feet, the outside edges, pressing towards the floor, hoping that they make it there someday. Something to consider is how much the back arches. As we open up the hips, we're kind of conditioned to say, oh, well, the rest of my body should respond, and now I can get the outsides of my feet down. However, check out my form. The goal is to be in lotus because it promotes good posture, and here we see I have completely crumbled. So it's not about getting the feet to the floor right away, it's about maintaining an erect spine while externally rotating. So our feet are flexed for this exercise as they rotate out. Flex the quads nice and hard. If the foot cue doesn't work for you, think about your knees trying to touch the floor behind you. Something I do as a cheat, I wrap my fingers on the insides of my thighs, press in, and then open them to the back, and at the same time, I can lean my chest forward and straighten out my spine even more. Working on this position is going to help you to achieve those open hips, right? Continually sitting up straight, continually pressing the tailbone towards the floor, crunching those toes up, active quads, little cheat with the hands to help externally rotate the legs. Next, bringing your legs in front of you, I'm going to try just one part of half lotus. We're in a pike here, our legs are together, bringing one leg in, letting the knee drop out to the side. The sole of the foot can touch the leg. Pressure on the knee can help. Remember that sometimes to make gains in flexibility or strength, we're feeling discomfort, but pain is never acceptable. So be gentle, listen to your body, and feel the opening of this hip. If your knee is on the floor, wonderful. Slide your foot closer to your ankle for more of a challenge. For less challenging, you'll bring the heel closer to the body, and now you'll notice that my knee is all the way down. Whereas before, midway, this is an intermediate challenge, my knee is up, And I need to give it a little help in order to gain some more openness in this hip. Trying the other side, legs together. Bring that foot up, wherever it suits you. Erect spine, press if you need to. More challenging means sliding the foot down to the ankle. Less challenging means bringing the foot all the way up into the body, where I personally no longer need to push. Legs straight. We're going to come back to the other side. Grab your ankle and foot, lift, and draw it across the body and sit it down. This is an excellent prep move for Lotus. As you can see, this leg is in the same position as I would want it in my Lotus, whether it's a half or a full Lotus. Something to be really mindful about is the knee joint. So when I'm in this, it is not an active squeeze. Do not engage the muscles to close this joint. Just let it be. If the leg does not come up and over the lap, and you have to flex the muscles in the leg to get it there, then you're moving too quickly. And you're going to want to backtrack to this position and practice here. Maybe on a really warm day, you can come back to it, lifting the foot, drawing it across your lap and placing it on the thigh of the straight leg. Already, since I'm kind of cool, I feel a deep, deep stretch in this hip. Flexing the toes can sometimes help with the knee. It draws all the muscles and tendons down away from the kneecap. Okay. Switching sides, extension, bring the other leg in, nice and close, grab ankle and foot, lift, draw it across the body, taking heel basically to your hip bone if you can get it there, and place the foot down on the top of the thigh of the straight leg. Try flexing the toes, flex the foot a little bit and see how that feels for you. Always maintaining that good posture, sitting up nice and straight. Slightly active leg on the bottom, don't relax it to the point where knee and foot fall out to the side. And keeping in mind that this joint should not be flexed. Relax it. And as you sit in this pose, relax deeper and deeper so that the hip can let go. You'll often find that because it's tight or it's hard, the muscle goes, oh, this is tight and hard. We have to breathe into it and tell the body, oh, that's right. I'm conditioned to relax with the breath. And allow that hip to let go and let the weight of the knee be. Just let the knee be, let the weight be. Releasing, legs out in front. Half Lotus is exactly what it sounds like. Full Lotus is taking one foot to the opposite thigh, other foot to the opposite thigh. So half, you start out kind of like crisscross applesauce, which is here, where both feet are tucked under. But instead, I'm going to bring one leg on top for just half Lotus. Always remember to be even. So if you're meditating in a half Lotus, you're going to want to switch legs afterwards and make sure that you sit for another 5 minutes or whatever that duration may have been, so that you're even. You do not want to have uneven hips. I'm personally going to show the example with my left leg on the floor. Because my right is in front, I'm going to lift it, grabbing foot and ankle, and take it to the hip bone on the opposite side of my body from the foot, placing it on the top of the thigh and allowing that knee to come down. If the knee does not come down, this is where handy dandy blocks come in handy. So oftentimes it's too hard to bring the foot up and it's too hard to allow the knee to drop down. Many, many beginners are right here. Even if they let go, the leg is there. And so to give it relief, we turn our blocks up on its highest point and tuck it underneath the knee, where we can then breathe into that hip and what? Relax it. release it. So we don't feel any obligation to hold it up there. We use our props. If you need more challenge, we rotate the block down a step. Maybe work on the next month bringing the foot up for the half lotus, and the knee may still be hovering. We can rotate our block down flat and prop. If we don't have blocks, I'm sure we have many, many blankets. Fold it as high as you need it to be and place it underneath that knee. And then doing the other side. A few more exercises to be able to get us into our lotus, whether it's half or full expression of the pose, is a butterfly, or I believe it's called seated triangle. Pressing the soles of the feet together, relaxing the hips, allowing the knees to fall out without crunching the knee joint. Placing hands behind you, you actually lift up, rotate your tailbone out behind you, and push your pubic bone towards your heels, and then come down. You're actually going to externally rotate your thighs a lot more successfully than starting here and doing what I see people do, where they pull the feet into the body. I'm guilty of this sometimes, but I can tell you my form is not nearly as good. It doesn't feel nearly as good. My thighs don't rotate in the way they really should. Feet together, a little ways out from the body, and press your whole body to your heels instead of dragging the heels in. You're welcome to hold feet to help you erect the spine nice and tall. If this is easy for you, flat back, reaching the ribs forward and over as if you're going to hook them over your feet. And you'll feel that engagement, or rather the stretch. You'll feel that stretch intensify right through here, as well as in the hip joint. You'll feel that your hip flexors and the outsides of the hips get super hard, nice and tight. An option here for those of you looking to lean forward, maybe you need some more restorative yoga and less active. I love to place a block here on the bridge of my nose where you would wear a pair of glasses. Place it in front of me. Take my elbows down. I round my back on this one if I'm looking for relief, and I rest my forehead here. Fully relax neck and shoulders. Truly feels like a restorative pose. And again, if you need more of a challenge, turn your block down on its side, flat, and so forth. Hands behind you, slide your tush away from your heels. Let's extend right leg to a comfortable point, okay? Comfortable point. In fact, let's bring our legs both out and find that 90 again. If you have trouble sitting up straight in this exercise, even the first time we did this, consider leaning against a wall, right, to help keep you upright so you can concentrate more on the legs and the hips. You can also grab your tush and pull the meat of your butt out from underneath of you so that your sits bones sit directly onto the ground. Let's leave right leg alone and extended. It is just slightly active to keep knee and toes facing up towards the ceiling. Bringing in left leg, lifting it up off the floor. See if you can wrap the sole of the foot on the inside of the right elbow. Wrap the outside of the knee with the other elbow. If you need to, interlace your fingers. I even hunker down on this one to get a hold of my leg. Once I have a good hold of it, then I concentrate on sitting up straighter. Give yourself some rocking motion, like you're rocking a baby, but don't rock so hard that the sit bone comes up off the floor. You want to stay grounded evenly through the hips. So this is kind of a back and forth, but also a little bit of a twisting motion. And hopefully you can see that on video. After a few rocks, press the sternum up. higher. Sit up straighter. And a little straighter. Feeling this intense stretch here in the outside of the hip. And release. Going with one more exercise on this side. Grabbing ankle and foot. Notice that I'm bringing my left arm around the left foot and grabbing the ankle or the heel. And from here, I'm going to draw it gently towards my sternum, towards the center of my chest. It's okay if you round your back, but it's not about rounding your chest down to the foot. It's about being in a gentle posture and instead encouraging the foot to come to the center of the chest. For me, this is about the distance that I have. If you need more of a challenge, you're going to sit up even straighter without losing the depth of the press of the foot to the chest. And you're also going to rotate deeply in the ankle joint. Notice here, this is a straight foot with a we'll call it neutral ankle. I need to press the outside of the ankle away from me and rotate the full sole of the foot to my chest. And one day, hopefully, place my full sole on my sternum. And release it. Extend the leg, find that 90, readjust if you need to, bringing in right leg. Use your arms to grip with the insides of the elbows. We cradle our leg. Once we have a hold, a towel can also be super useful for this. I should have brought one over. So if you can't reach, perhaps you can reach here and here. If you have a towel, you would hold one side, slide your arm out, and hook yourself, right? It would bridge the gap. And once I have a good hold, then I concentrate on sitting up a little straighter, and I begin to rock. Feeling it deep inside the hip. Depending on your low back and your glutes, they may be really tight and you feel it throughout that whole area. Putting a little bit of a twist on your rock. Sit up a little straighter. Straight leg is just gently active to keep the toes and the knee facing the ceiling. A little taller yet. Keep pressing the leg towards the chest and release. Grabbing hold of our foot, pulling up, bringing the arm to the outside of the leg. We grab foot like our heel or our ankle, and then we gently sit up straighter and straighter as we direct the foot gently towards the sternum. Careful not to round your chest to it. The goal isn't to touch. The goal is to have an erect spine with the sole of your foot gently journeying to the sternum. For more of a challenge, you're pressing the ankle, the outside of the ankle, away from your body. So it's a deep, deep bend here. Trying to direct the full sole of the foot to place it over your heart. And release. Let's try a full lotus together, remembering that if there's any kind of torquing in your knees, you must stop. You have to backtrack to a half, and if the half isn't doable, then you're coming not to a crisscross applesauce where the legs are under you, but you're going to push your feet forward a little bit and press your knees away from each other to bring the feet as close together as possible. This is baseline. This is where we absolutely must start. Second step is our half. So I'm going to switch the half that I show you. So I'm leaving right leg down this time, picking up the foot, taking heel to opposite hip bone and allowing it to rest or propping it up. trying full lotus with me. And keeping in mind, you're going to drop back to one of those other levels if you feel any kind of discomfort and pain. Bringing in right foot. We're at 90 degrees. Notice how very deeply you are externally rotated on this thigh. Bringing in left foot. You're going to grab heel and foot and direct it across the body. Place it down. Pick up the foot. Direct it across the body towards the hip bone. Place it on the top of the thigh. Once you're here, we're not just conscious of the knee joint, we're also conscious of the ankles. This is a pretty extreme pose. Remember, we are in an advanced pose here. Without squeezing the knee joints, without pressing into the body with the feet. They should be relaxed. There will be pressure there, naturally, but you should not be rotating the feet outward so that the outsides of the soles are pressing into the thighs. You want those soles to be turning upward towards the ceiling. And release. Trying the other side. If you're in half, switch the leg that's going to be on top. So here I'm placing left on bottom, right on top. Wiggle that foot out, lift, draw across the body and onto the top of the thigh. And this leads us into a perfect ending where we actually talk about the Namaste phrase that is used. We covered Namaste Mudra, also called Anjali Mudra, last month in one of these videos. So accompanying this mudra is Namaste. And we say it and it feels powerful, but maybe you don't know why. Also, feel free to release your lotus if you need to here while you listen. So Namaste literally means I bow to the divine in you. In yoga, there's just a little bit of a different feel to it. It's more like the divine in me recognizes the divine in you. So very, very similar line of thought there. In ancient India and today, it is also a greeting. That's a salutation. And oftentimes in response, they will say Kush Reo, which means be happy. So these greetings and terms are really lovely and endearing. And I hope that now, going forward in your practice, you can feel Namaste a little bit deeper and maybe even incorporate Kushreo into your conclusion at the end of class to some of your fellow classmates or your teacher. Also, one last little snippet on Lotus Pose is that it is also ancient. In ancient India, it actually predates Hatha Yoga. And that's really saying something. So when you sit and you work your way towards Lotus, you're really grounding in an ancient tradition with many, many teachers and learners that came before us, which can have a really powerful effect. And I think that despite it looking easy and despite how much we all want it dearly, this pose fits perfectly into yoga, where it in itself is a journey. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any comments or questions, leave them below.